Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This is Locked On Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Robyn Leaño, here on this wonderful Friday. It is September 24th. We're getting so much closer to the season beginning. For those who aren't unfamiliar with who I am, I've been covering the Coyotes organization for the last, 5-6 years or so, mainly down in Tucson, covering the Tucson Roadrunners. Excited to be host here on Locked On Coyotes for my second season now. So super excited to be here. Now we're getting ready for the Coyotes entering the Central Division. Here to join me on this episode, another crossover. I believe this is now our fifth or sixth time at it. Dane Lewis, the new host of Locked On Stars, here joining us. Hey, Dane, how you doing?
Hey, Robyn, I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and not to mention, you're on this first show that we're launching officially with YouTube. Those who are now watching on the YouTube channel, super excited to have you on here. It's going to be a great episode, so be sure to stay locked in. This is how we're going to format today's episode. So we'll be doing, as we normally do, these crossovers for these division previews to say, is we'll start with questions. Now I'll let Dane go ahead and ask questions about the Coyotes, and then next we will flip things around. I'll go ahead and start asking him questions about the Dallas Stars, and then we'll start just overall have a general discussion about the Central Division, since this is the Coyotes' first time going into a new division. So, Dane, the floor is yours. You let us know any questions you have about the Arizona Coyotes.
Sure. I think the first one, actually, let me say first, I'm honored to be the first, guest for your launch onto YouTube. So I'm excited to see that your channel has made it to YouTube and honored to be the first guest. So this is really exciting. But I think my first question kind of has to do, some of my recent episodes have been about preseason, like either power rankings or projections on where teams will finish. And I think a lot of the lists that I've seen have shown the Coyotes kind of being lower on the list, but I think that's kind of, it's tough and unfair. I think just with them joining the new division, for the expectations to be placed so low. So I guess kind of my first question, and this could also kind of go into the third segment as well, is where do you see the Coyotes finishing this season in terms of being in this new division and the Central Division as well, as just the Western Conference in general?
So the way I've been trying to explain this to as many people as I can, the Coyotes this year are going into probably one of the deepest rebuilds a lot of us will ever see. They had quite an active offseason. They unloaded their captain. They unloaded their best player. They got rid of a lot of their other best players. All their goaltenders gone. All for draft picks. They're just like, you know what? We're going to completely just blow everything up. Let this next season ride out. Get some great picks coming up in the next round and next year, and restart. And that's what they're doing. So I don't think they're going to compete that much at all this year, to be honest. And it sucks to say that because obviously there was a couple years ago, there was hope. They made it into the playoffs. They beat the Nashville Predators in the play-in round of the bubble, and then unfortunately got absolutely clobbered by the Colorado Avalanche. But I mean, that was a year of hope. It was like, oh my God, this team actually shows promise. And then, well, a lot of stuff happened.
I gotcha. With that said, kind of like looking, I guess, ahead towards the future, who would you say is the guy in Arizona that the team is kind of being built around, and who's going to eventually, hopefully, lead you guys back to the playoffs sooner rather than later, hopefully?
Yeah. So a couple months ago, when the Coyotes were first talking about going for the fresh start and going for this deep rebuild, they were pretty much saying that every player is on the block, every player is available, with the exception of one, and that's defenseman Jacob Chychrun, which is no surprise. If you look at his contract, he's got, I believe, like 4 or 5 years left with like $4 million. And for a defenseman who's 23 years old and already potentially a Norris caliber defenseman, like, you easily, no doubt about it. That is like, if you have any questions about it, like, he is the future of the Arizona Coyotes, and he should be.
Yeah, that's I have the roster pulled up right here. And it looks like so much youth on the team in terms of just age and whatnot. And so I think it'll be exciting to see him play. I think it's good that you think the centerpiece of the team is a defenseman, because I think defense is so underrated in the NHL. You can see how teams like Tampa Bay can just build an early lead that's kind of insurmountable. And so I think it's important, especially in a division as competitive as the Central, to have a good defense to kind of keep some of the more elite offenses at bay, because almost everyone in the Central Division that I've seen in the past few years, being a Stars fan and sometimes being at the losing end of these high-scoring games, it's good to have a solid defenseman that hopefully can lead a young defensive core for you guys kind of in the coming years.
Yeah, and that's what makes me excited, especially because I think I was watching Jake Ochokin last year, and like he was probably my second favorite player to watch outside of Connor Garland, who was just a couple months ago got shipped over to Vancouver for a pretty important pick in the draft. So I mean, like, I understand why they had to get rid of him, but I mean, it's Jake Ochokin's turn now.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. And I'm again looking at the roster over here. There's another 23-year-old who I see, Clayton Keller, who's also getting paid quite a bit of money. It looks like about $7 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, just based on this list. Yeah. What are some of the expectations, kind of moving towards the forwards and offensive side of the roster? What are expectations for Keller for this season?
Keller's definitely he's probably eyes like easily like a first line winger, or even just in general top six forward. I don't think he's worth the $7.1 million that he's getting paid. I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't end up getting moved. Like I said, every player was on the block essentially. It's like essentially the Coyotes were just going fire sale. It's like, pick who you want, just not chicken. But yeah, he's still a decent player. I still think he's, capable of putting up big numbers. It's just going to be a lot harder for him and the rest of the forward group to do much, because everyone else isn't that great. I mean, they're like, I was talking about their fourth line, for example, and their fourth line is consistent of the three forwards that they acquired from Vancouver, part of that trade, getting the 9th overall pick in Roussel, Eriksson, and Beagle, and like that's not a good forward core, if I'm going to be honest. But you take what you can get at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully these draft picks that you guys have acquired will pay dividends in the end. I know it can, especially with the NHL being one of the sports where you can draft a young player that's talented, but you might not see him at the NHL level for 2-3 seasons. I know baseball kind of works similarly. It's weird with the inconsistencies of the leagues, and we have to be patient as hockey fans with rookies and draftees and waiting to see them blossom into what they could eventually become.
Yeah, absolutely. And but again, this is the whole point of the rebuild. Arizona Coyotes are going to be not winning all the games, and we'll be focusing on a lot of draft picks. They have now 8 in the first 2 rounds of next year's draft. So
it could be a lot worse as far as draft picks goes. That's a good place to be. A lot of potential trade leverage there as well. I think with so many high draft picks.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what Bill Armstrong's goal was. He just take whatever value you can of the players and turn them away for draft picks, and don't worry about salary cap, because you're not going to be spending that much at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm interested to see how you guys are incorporated into the division as the rebuild is going on. I think it's interesting that you guys are kind of, like, as you mentioned, like at the start or the low point of the rebuild. And so hopefully for a team like Arizona, you can only go up from here. And I think that'll be good for the young guys on the team to face such a competitive division consistently early on. And so that way, when the team has all the solid players brought in, that they're ready to go, and they won't be afraid of the competition that the Central Division can provide.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about that as later in the episode, but there's a couple reasons why I'm glad the Coyotes are going to the Central Division. I'm still not a fan of it, but there's a couple reasons why I'm glad that it's happening.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think if that's all the questions you have, we can get ready to turn questions over the other way. I'll start asking you questions about the Dallas Stars. We'll get to that in just a sec, but first I want to tell you guys that we're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With the new updated site interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website and use your mobile device. Sign up for a free account today and receive a 100% welcome bonus. That is double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, including hockey, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Does this sound familiar to you? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and it's a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called Directv Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with Directv Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. That's directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, now time to turn things over on this crossover episode. Time to ask our fellow Locked On Stars host about the Dallas Stars. And I think to start things off for me is this was a team that didn't really perform well last year in that division. I mean, it was a COVID year. I think they started off the first 2 weeks with COVID problems, so had a lot of their games postponed, and then they had a decent start. I think Joe Pavelski I think had a pretty decent run, and then they fell flat.
Oh, absolutely. It was the most, as if the season wasn't already going to be challenging enough with COVID and everything else going on. And then the Stars, miss the first several games. I can't remember how many it was. I believe it was maybe 4 or 6 games, something like that. And then Joe Pavelski has one of the hottest starts I've ever seen. And Stars fans everywhere are talking about him winning the Hart Trophy and, being way too bold, talking about how the Stars are going to run it back to the Stanley Cup Finals and actually win this year. And then obviously, like you said, did not have the most successful season. Things didn't pan out. And it's just so weird. And I feel like I've been telling a ton of people, you throw in COVID, and then about right around the halfway point of the season, maybe a little before, in late January, early February, one of the biggest snowstorms in the state of Texas history hits the entire state and kills the power in Dallas, especially, and I know other places statewide. And so we missed another 3-4 games because of that at home. And so you kind of mix all that up, and you throw in some injuries from guys that didn't get to fully recover from the playoff run in the bubble. Tyler Seguin missed a lot of the year. Rupe Hintz was on and off. Alexander Radulov was missing time. Anton Hudobin, our goalkeeper, was missing a lot of time. You throw all that in there, and you're not going to have the best season. And obviously, some teams still did well despite some of the odds that were thrown at the NHL as a whole this past year. But there were some good things to take away from the season overall. But like you said, kind of a disappointing season for Dallas as far as success in the win column goes.
A couple other things too that was, I've been trying to go through their roster, and one thing that I saw this happen in the news when it happened, and I was surprised by it. I forgot about it, and I looked back on the Cap Friendly page and was like, wait, that's right. Dallas signed Ryan Suter.
Yeah.
What is up with that?
Oh, yeah. It was one of the, I want to say, crazier signings we had, because we didn't really have a breakthrough free agent signing. If you ask me, if anything, Ryan Suter was the breakthrough guy. And I think ultimately he's just we lost Jamie Alexiak, a defenseman, to the expansion draft. So now he's in Seattle, and was probably one of our more probably not our best defender. I think there's one or two other guys that could take that title on the team. But when you talk about a guy that was just like the enforcer, if you will, the guy who's not scared to collect a few penalty minutes at the expense of protecting his teammates, Jamie Alexiak was that guy. And now obviously he's with a different team. And so I think what Jim Nill and the rest of the front office were trying to do was just find a replacement for that. But obviously Suter is in his early to mid 30s. And so he has a lot of hockey experience under his belt. And so I think he'll be a nice addition to guys like Miro Heiskanen, who just signed a new 8-year contract, and John Klingberg, who we're hoping will sign a new contract soon. He's going into the last season of a 7-year deal, only 29 years old. So I know myself, as well as many other Stars fans, are hoping that they get a deal worked out either before the season or during the season, that he's able to return for the foreseeable future, because he's been a valuable piece these past few years.
How is this team affected by the flat cap this upcoming season? Because I'm looking at their salary cap, and obviously they're over, but it looks like they're going to put that Ben Bishop is going to be LTIR. So, but they're going to be right there, like right at the cap, and it's just like, how is that working out for them?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think that we're going to lose a few guys at the end of the season. Who are either going to be, free agents, or maybe they might obviously make some trades in this season. I have a whole segment in my Locked On Stars episode today talking about the goalkeeping situation, how I think potentially a goalkeeper could get traded. And so obviously you don't know how people could get moved, early on in the season, halfway through. But I think like Joe Pavelski is a free agent at the end of this season. He's obviously getting up there in age. Alexander Radulov, another guy. Blake Como, I think, is also a free agent at the end of the season. Guys whose contracts aren't massive, but once you bunch a lot of these guys together, that frees up a little bit of cap room come off-season time, which, again, I don't know if we'll make any big splashes in free agency, but we obviously have a lot of young guys on the roster like Jason Robertson, who will be kind of looking to hopefully keep around long-term. And so I think, unfortunately, we're going to have to lose some valued veterans by not re-signing them in order to kind of make room for the future of the team.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of any other questions to ask. Honestly, I would go ahead and maybe ask you this: is there anything that I'm not asking you that is seems like a burning thing that you think Coyotes fans should know about this Stars team?
Nothing too much. I mean, I think touching on Ryan Suter was a big deal, because I think it'll be interesting to see how the defense plays early on. Like we talked about the importance of defense earlier. And obviously you guys are seeming to build around defense in Arizona. And I think Dallas is looking to do the same, obviously, with signing Miro Heiskanen. And I think the Dallas Stars are poised to hopefully have a good bounce back year. I'm obviously a fan of the team and want the best from them and expect the best from them. And so my expectations may be high, and obviously won't be surprised, if there's some speed bumps in the way, to hopefully making it back to the postseason. But I think if I can say one thing, just kind of based on what we talked about in this show, and what I've been able to see from our rosters, I think our teams aren't too different. The Stars might just be where the Coyotes will hopefully be in a year or two, if that makes sense. If things kind of go according to plan with how we are looking to build y'all's team. And if that's the case, not necessarily the worst place to be. The Stars have had a lot of heartbreak in the postseason when we've made it the past few seasons. But I think we can agree as sports fans and hockey fans, it's better to have heartbreak in the playoffs than not make it at all. Because the Dallas Stars are also kind of no stranger to that as well. With last season, it was tough to almost make it and be in the fight till the very end, and then obviously fall short. And the playoffs, had some very entertaining moments this past year, and it was sad that the Stars did not get to take part in that. So if I can have any encouragement, I think the Coyotes are going in the right direction, because I think they're building the team similar to how Dallas is doing it. And if my predictions are correct, I think Dallas is building their team well.
Well, I think that's a good thing for Coyotes to hear. They love hearing, they love getting a little glimpse of hope, They always love that. But anyways, coming up, we'll take a little preview of the Central Division, plus a little extra thing I totally almost forgot about, that we will get to in just a sec. But first, I want to let you guys know today's episode brought to you by Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There is something absolutely for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their favorites. If you don't know all the flavors, they got cherry, barcia, mint, brownie, orange, cookies and cream. So many delicious flavors. My personal favorite flavor, it was like one of those limited time ones, churro puff. Just the other day, I was munching on a cookie dough chunk flavor. They're absolutely phenomenal. They taste delicious, but not only that, they are also healthy too. 17 to 18 grams protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. And if you guys go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15, you get 15% off your order. Once again, using the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, now it's time to finish things off on this special crossover episode, Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Stars, talking about the Central Division. But first, one thing I almost forgot about was announced just, I think, last week. Dane, we got a preseason game, not in either of our arenas.
We do. That's true. I that has literally slipped my mind until this moment when you brought it up, and I have no idea how. But yeah, that's absolutely right. They're playing in El Paso, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, at the I forgot the Hockeyville arena, but they got selected in El Paso, which is pretty cool because for me, that's only about a 4-hour drive, believe it or not, from where I live in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm just like, I was asking people, do I do it? Like, that's an easy drive.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. I think obviously, I think it's good for helping grow the game of hockey, especially kind of in this region of the country where it's not as popular, kind of down in the southern part of the region. But yeah, I think it's exciting to kind of take the game to a city where you might not expect it, but hopefully there's a good turnout for both teams.
I think especially in the Southwest, because I think all of the fans here in this of teams here in the Southwest, and I'll lump in, of course, Stars fans in there, Stars fans, Golden Knights fans, Coyotes fans, even Ducks and Kings fans, we all get annoyed at the fact that Canadian fans or Canadian media kind of says, what's hockey doing in there? It's sunny. There's no snow. There's no whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just I just get guys, it's enough with that.
Yeah, let us have our fun, you know?
And not only that too, is I tell this to hockey fans in the North, and it's by the way, for example, a Maple Leafs fan, how's Austin Matthews working out for you? How would you like if we completely took him away from you because he's a native of Scottsdale, Arizona?
Is he really? I did not know that. Huh. That'd be something.
And they even drafted another kid out of Scottsdale just this last draft. So Southwest hockey, it works.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think the nice part about the teams that Southwest hockey and a lot of the cities you mentioned is it's nice interacting with the fans of those teams because that they're actual fans. I don't think it's as easy to bandwagon a hockey team in the Southwest part of the country. And I know that's the case for Dallas, and I assume the case with Arizona is you talk to a Stars fan and they're typically they know their stuff. They've been following the team for a while. Or if they're new, they're excited to get to know more and be educated on the team. And so that's kind of the cool part of this part of the country is, the fans are unified as one and they're all dialed in on the team and all their endeavors.
Plus the coolest thing about this region, and I'm sure you can say that, talk about experience in terms of the warmer months of the year, is you can go to a hockey game and you can leave in shorts and flip-flops because the weather is perfect outside.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that especially kind of early in the season, and then especially the spring months, March, April, May here in Texas at least. Yeah, you can go in t-shirt and shorts and you're doing just fine.
And that's what we love about this area. If you're in the Southeast, you have to deal with the humidity, and that sucks. I'm not sure how humid it gets there in Texas, but
it has its days. It's Texas weather in general, inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get. It's a mystery box every single day.
I guess Arizona does have those days too, especially during the monsoon. But let's start talking about the Central Division, though. Going to be an interesting year this year because, again, this is the Coyotes' first year in the Central Division. As you heard, they're probably not going to compete. But there are a lot of moving parts this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a competitive division, and it was weird because with obviously a lot of the divisions were realigned last season. And there were a few teams still. I know Nashville was still in our division, Chicago, and I think other than that, I think everybody else was originally from a different division. So it's kind of nice to go back to the normal schedule where we'll get to see. We didn't play Colorado or St. Louis at all last year. And I know for Dallas fans, those are always like the big games that we like to mark on our calendars because those are typically our most competitive games, or at least if those teams are have a better record or are ranked higher than us in power rankings. We like to win those games, and so it'll be nice to kind of spark the flame again on some of these interdivision rivalries, and hopefully Arizona can kind of find their niche and all that, and finding kind of teams that they match up well against, and can hopefully, as seasons go on, establish a good like interdivision rivalry with another team.
Oh, we got a little bit of a preview of that when the Coyotes went 7 games straight in February against the St. Louis Blues and just annihilated them. I mean, it was like a four like they took the series like 4 games to 3 on that, which was pretty fun. But at the same time, it was like tiring. I think by the end of it, I was even doing like it was like before the 7th game, I was doing a crossover with the boys over at Locked On Blues, and we're just like, can we just be done with this already?
Oh yeah, I can't imagine having. Yeah, I know. I think Dallas played Detroit. I think we played the Red Wings like 5 or 6 times in a row, and it was both like teams. Both teams were kind of at the low points of their season, and so it wasn't even good hockey. So you get the monotony of playing each other over and over, and then it's not even competitive. So thankful for a normal season, a normal schedule this season.
I mean, on the flip side, though, like Coyotes were actually, at that time they're in a playoff spot, and they were still looking halfway decent. But and I think that's still a good preview, though. That if them playing the Blues, they got a little taste of the Colorado Avalanche, who, they stole a couple games, but at the same time, now the Colorado Avalanche have Darcy Kemper, who the Coyotes used to have, which pretty much was Colorado's bane, and now it's the roles are flipped.
Yeah, man. Colorado is just one of those teams. I feel like they can just find a way to kind of like get under people's skin. I don't know if that's the right term, but they're just kind of a scrappy team, and obviously you have to game plan for Nathan McKinnon, and then that allows other players on that team to flourish, and so it's kind of pick your poison with that team.
And let's be real, this like I think it's not a hot take to say that the Colorado Avalanche are going to be first in the Central Division by the time May or April hits.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. I've seen them even like projected to win the West in general. Them, and I think Vegas has like the best odds, according to most sources, to win their division in the Pacific.
Well, the Pacific Division is terrible.
Yeah, compared to the Central Division, I agree. But I mean, of course, you never know. But yeah, Vegas and Colorado, I've seen, are kind of the 2 front runners early in the season for teams that can make a run at the Stanley Cup. So it'll be interesting to see if Colorado can live up to the hype, because, like as we've said several times, this is a competitive division, and it's hard to count any team out. Obviously, some teams are still developing and kind of bringing in some new guys. But yeah, competitive division almost every single time the teams match up.
I can easily see this division as a 5-team playoff division. Minnesota is easily going to be in this mix again, especially since they just freaking re-signed Kirill Kaprizov. Like,
oh, they did.
Oh, come on.
Lots of money.
Yeah. That's going to be a dangerous one. And yeah, I mean, they got rid of, Suter and Parise, but
yeah, it'll be interesting. Kaprizov. I mean, he obviously, I think, deserved the Calder Trophy, despite Jason Robertson being a finalist for it. Really was kind of hoping Robertson would come out with that trophy, just with the disappointing season we had. But hopefully it's worth it for Minnesota to keep him on long term, and maybe Jason Robertson will have the better career in the end. Well, only time will tell with those guys.
I want to get your thoughts on Chicago, because they were, probably like months ago, we'd be like, they'd probably finish like second to last or whatever, and be like, they're not that good. But then they make some moves, and like now they're probably up on that list too of potentially fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, that's another like sneaky team that I totally agree. If you had asked at the end of last season, I'd been like, yeah, once we're back with Chicago, no big deal. They might steal a few games from some good teams, but like Marc-Andre Fleury, especially playing goalkeeper for them now, that's huge. Yeah, I think Chicago is slowly kind of building their way back to where they were, I guess, about a decade ago when they were making runs at the Stanley Cup and kind of one of the powerhouses of the league. And so it'll be every team in this division, but especially Chicago, having been at the bottom end. I think it would not be surprised at all to see them at least fight for a playoff position. I mean, like you said, could easily be 4 or 5 teams from this division make the postseason, which will be good. I think that would be good for the quality of hockey that we would see in the playoffs, because it's as if it's not enough to get the division games during the regular season, to get them in the postseason, where the odds are higher and the intensity is raised. Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm trying to think of, because of how competitive this division is, who the 3 teams that are going to miss are. Obviously, the Coyotes are going to be one. They're going to. I have no doubts in my mind they're going to finish last. Unfortunately, it's just the way the rebuild works.
You set the expectations low, but maybe they'll exceed. You never know.
I mean, there's a reason they got so many draft picks. If they do something like I don't know what to think, but maybe they finish 6th in the division because the other teams aren't that bad. I don't know. Maybe Nashville barely misses.
I think that too. Yeah, I feel like Nashville last year they made it in. If I remember correctly, kind of barely snuck into the playoffs last season, and I think they were kind of the beneficiary of the division that we were realigned in last season, kind of having a weaker bottom half, like including Dallas, Detroit, teams like that. And so I think now that the divisions are back to normal, they might fall down a little bit. Obviously, they're still a competitive team, but yeah, I think Nashville and maybe even Chicago and Winnipeg, you could probably interchange right there. One of those teams could make it in, and one of those teams I can see missing as well this season, but being close.
So I'm trying to think now top 3, because I'm looking at those 2. So it's bottom 3 now, top 3. I kind of already said Colorado, maybe Minnesota and St. Louis.
Yeah, I think. I mean, and of course, people can make the argument that I'm a homer to the Dallas Stars. I would myself would probably put Dallas in 3rd and then St. Louis in 4th.
Okay.
But again, I think the teams are evenly matched, and I would not be surprised to see it, switch throughout the season. But yeah, I do agree kind of with the top 2. I think Colorado would not be surprised at all if they establish a lead early on in the division and kind of maintain it. Minnesota also, I think, in 2 or 3 as well. So yeah, I think a competitive top 3 or 4. I think, yeah, that those kind of 4 teams we mentioned could all be right there in the mix of it come the end of the season.
And this is why I was saying earlier, I'm super excited to watch the more competitive division rather than watching whatever it is over in the Pacific Division, because the California teams, they're bad. All 3 of them are. Vegas is good, and that's about it, because Vancouver's not great. The Alberta teams aren't stellar. I mean, they're decent, but not stellar. Seattle is an expansion team. We don't know what the thing.
Yeah, we literally have no idea. But I mean, Vegas was the last expansion team, and they straight up went to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year. So
yeah,
you never know.
And yeah, we don't even know what that was, because that was like a band of misfits that just all of a sudden made a run. Like how? What?
Oh,
made
yeah.
no sense.
Obviously, they got stopped at the end. But yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, Seattle's. It's hard to make predictions on them because we have literally never seen this group of players play before.
Yeah, but to me, because of how bad the Pacific Division is, wouldn't surprise me if they make the playoffs. They'd be like 2nd or 3rd in the division.
Yeah, I agree. I think, obviously, I mean, with the expansion draft, they picked up some good players. So, and playing in a weaker division kind of set up for success. So hopefully they're able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, Western Conference, you have the tail of 2 divisions.
All of that just to match up with Tampa Bay again, potentially.
I don't want to see Tampa Bay again.
I don't either. They're scary, and they hurt my feelings in 2020.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on with Tampa Bay. I was actually rooting for the Stars in that on that bubble year.
Yeah, it was an insane run.
Mainly because Khudobin he had one hell of a run on goalie, and also my good friend, my favorite, one of my favorite hockey players, in Joe Pavelski, is having a hell of a season.
Yeah, absolutely. It was crazy because that season, starting back like in 2019, the Stars started awful. I think they were like 1-7-2. I think like just could not score to save their lives, and then the turnaround point I think was kind of like November, and then they played in the Winter Classic in January, and then the season shuts down, and all the emotions from October 2019 till I guess it was October 2020 when the Stanley Cup happened.
Yep. That was a mess. Yeah, that gap was crazy. I keep forgetting about that. Like, even though I know it's the boat, but that's right. It happened from like August to October. Like, what?
Yeah, I was like, watching like, and the NBA was, and baseball. No, baseball ended up finishing at a regular time, but like NBA was in a similar situation. So I'm watching these games, and I was still in college at the time, and friends of mine that weren't up to date with, like, they didn't follow sports very well. They're like, I thought hockey was like this time and this time, so I like had to explain the restart and all that, and so it was crazy. But thankfully, we are back on track. It seems, as of now, fingers crossed, as far as scheduling goes.
Absolutely. Hey, I think that's probably enough discussion. If you have any final thoughts, I'll give you the floor for maybe a couple minutes or so, maybe even less. If you have anything else you want to put out there to the Coyotes fans, to your own fans, to whatever.
I can't think of too much. I'm just excited for the season. I know you are as well, and I know the listeners are as well. We're ready to get things rolling. Yeah, we're super close. Excited to have y'all in the division, and it'll be exciting to play you guys as the years go on, and as you guys are rebuilding. And yeah, excited to have a new team in this division to kind of shake things up.
Absolutely. But hey, that's going to do it for us on this episode, this wonderful crossover episode of Locked On Coyotes and Locked On Stars. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review. Both of our podcasts available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Coyotes, once again, now available on YouTube. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button there and hit a like. Leave a comment if you like what you heard. Let us know if there's anything else that you want us to touch on. Don't forget also to follow us on social media. I am personally at Robyn Leaño 1, our podcast Twitter page at LO_Coyotes. And Dane, I'll let us know where we can find you guys.
Sure. Yeah. You can find me, my personal account on Twitter, just at Dane _Lewis. So that's my first name, last name separated by 2 underscores, not 1. And then our show page is just at Locked On Stars, all run together. So yeah, give us a follow on Twitter. We'd love to interact with you guys over there.
Yeah, interacting, that's one of the things that we love to do on this show too. We'll go ahead and interact with you back, as well as answer any questions you might have on a future episode of the podcast. Anyways, thanks again to everyone for listening to this episode. Thanks, Dane, for coming on to this episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And for those Coyotes fans listening, don't forget to howl on.